times I feel like I'm so wanting to help humans and help them, and I want to help everyone. And then I would start seeing patterns like, what is going on with all these people with relationship stuff? Or like every one of these women has been sexually abused or whatever. And I would start to get quiet and go into meditation with it. Like, Spirit, what are you saying to me? And that would be such a profound moment for my own healing and growth, because Spirit would be like, yeah, you need to remember some stuff. And we're bringing more and more of these humans to you until you can remember it. Because it's time for you to clear that. It's time for you to release that cellular memory. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I love and appreciate what you're saying so much, because I feel that it is an aspect of how we need each other, you know?
Yes.
Because sometimes people will say, well, do you work on yourself, Toni? And yeah. But I go to other people too, because what happens, it's when we meet, you know, and I try to, a couple of aspects, like you're saying, perhaps I speak some wisdom, but it's that person's soul recognition of, yes, that resonates with me. And they go take that into themselves and create, you know, that gift. It's like a flower blossoms, you know, this seed blossoms.
Yeah.
And, I always say, you know, when I touch people, the way that I work with my hands-on work, the people will say, wow, you know, your hands, and I feel all this stuff happening under your hands. And it's funny because I can say, well, you know, to me, it feels like you, and to you, it feels like me, but it's what's happening between us. It's where it's what's happening when we meet. That's the magic. And spirit or universal intelligence, God, goddess, however you want to call. That's why we're here together, because we're here to help heal each other and reflect to each other and allow, you know, that healing to occur. Sometimes I hear myself telling something to a client, and I know it's for me. It's coming through me, but it's like, okay, that, Toni. That one's for you.
Oh, yeah. I've had moments like that, too, where you're like, whoa, that's really giving me prickles, and that feels very important for myself.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. I had a session the other day with a friend. She's the new friend I just met at a yoga studio I teach at, and she's a healer. And so we decided to do healing for each other. And like, I just felt guided to her, and it was probably my guides just like, yeah, go connect with her. And so in the session, she was very aware and very intuitive, and so am I. And so as I was laying there receiving, at the same time, I set the intention that any of my intelligence and my gifts would be shared with her through consciousness. So I kind of set that intent. And she said, she commented to me, she goes, it's interesting because she does healings with a lot of people, but she's like, I really feel something with you. Like, it's like a circuit, and like you're sharing with me and I'm sharing with you. And I was like, yes, that's what we're doing. And so it was interesting because she was really helping me ground my energy more. And she could feel intuitively that I was taking her higher in consciousness, and that we were both helping each other in something we needed. But it was like a circuit, like a loop of consciousness helping both the giver and the receiver. And I feel like when I teach trainings, healing trainings, and I lead workshops and things on what I'm doing as a healer, that is one of the most important ingredients, I feel, is to realize when you're, you know, whether you're a healer or the one receiving, and really the true healer is the one healing self. But when we're an assistant, let's say, a facilitator to others, it's really that loop that we're creating with source, higher source energy, moving through us, moving to the one we're assisting. But we should always know that it's also coming back to ourselves. And if not, these are the healers that a lot of times I'm helping to help them to remember, because they're the healers that are giving it all away, and they feel really drained and fatigued, and they start to get sicknesses from their clients. They're like, it's like they're a sponge taking on their pain, their problems. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there a question, Anton?
Yes, there is a question.
Okay, what's the question?
Pegasus is asking, could the ego ever be so intertwined with the body that the body would not give an accurate answer from kinesiology?
Yes.
I would say the ego is amazingly seductive and sneaky. And so, like, your body, if you really, let's say you desire to truly heal, this is from my perspective, and then we'll see what Toni has to say too. But if you have like that desire to heal and find alignment at a soul level, then you will actually, in a sense, you're submitting and releasing the ego and its control. But when humans have more of they've lost themselves in the ego, they feel they are the ego self, it can be really tricky to help. I think these are like when you get to really extreme cases, like people are very narcissistic or just so broken, and they've so been there for, as long as they can remember that that's all they know. I feel that can be quite a challenge if they don't have a soul level of desire to heal. Like, let's say somebody wants them to heal, like they're maybe in a relationship and the wife wants them to get healing, but the husband doesn't want to heal. That ego can definitely enslave the true alignment that's possible. But would you say, Toni, that the body will always keep trying to get the attention? Because I would say yes.
Yeah, I understood the question when the person said, could the ego be so intertwined that it would give a false reading on kinesiology, which is like muscle testing?
Yeah.
And I would say yes, and that's why it's so important to learn the language of your intuition, because the kinesiology, sometimes the muscle testing, especially if you're the ego is connected to a specific answer, it can give a false positive. But if we could get to the pure intuition, which I was speaking earlier about the exercise of kind of blinding the intellectual mind by it not really knowing what was written on the paper, and the person trying to tune in and see what the body is saying intuitively without knowing intellectually. When you can kind of blind, if you feel like that's a problem, like the ego is very attached to a certain outcome, then if you could somehow blind the intellect or the ego and allow the body to reveal the intuitive feeling, and that can be done. So in my book, I have a lot of exercises working with somebody like Tanya or myself to really help you tap in and get the ego to step aside a little bit. The ego is a tool for the soul to operate in the world. However, sometimes it likes to take over. So we have to try to get back in touch with that intuitive, the soul knowing. But I think it's very wise if you're noticing that your ego is really attached to something. Very good. Then you need to kind of blindfold it or a little bit to get into the soul's intuition.
Yes, and like when you're with that same statement and question, I've noticed that with people, if they get kind of in an addictive place with like tarot cards, let's say, and they really want to believe that is their true love and he's going to leave that woman for me or whatever. I mean, that's kind of like an extreme case, but I've really seen this with humans that I've
attached.
Yeah, where it's sometimes you got to just take a break from all your tools. And even like tools, like one thing that Source has helped me understand is that tools are important and they're powerful and they can help us, but never let the tools be the power. And so really our intuition is the power. Yes. So if we sometimes feel like we're getting really weird conflicting answers, like let's say we're using a pendulum on medicines, or we're using our tarot cards, or even working with a healer or a psychic, like I'm really mindful, like I encourage people not to ask your answers from a guide even, because I feel like a true aligned guide is going to encourage you to cultivate that strength within and ask your own answer or ask your own questions and to guide you to finding those answers. They're going to help you, but in essence, we want to start tuning into the actual intuitive response. Yes. And so I've seen that with people where if you're wanting an outcome, you're going to kind of create and project that, whether you can project it on humans around you or you could project it on your tarot cards or tell the pendulum, yeah, it's totally fine if I drink alcohol every day. I'm good. You know what I mean?
Right. and getting upset with anybody who conflicts with that. It's like, we need to listen to our friends and people in our life too. Sometimes they can see us in ways and give us some guidance that we're needing to have. We don't see. But I think you're so right that sometimes we get addicted to certain tools, and the idea is those are tools to help us tap into our intuition. But if you get so attached and give the power to the thing that, like, the pendulum knows, well, the pendulum doesn't know. That's just
it's
a way
piece of metal.
to tap into your intuition. And I've even seen people use like the tarot cards or the oracle cards or things like that they're very specifically open, and it can be open to interpretation. People, if they're so attached to one outcome, they'll go, see, it's set, it's like, well, let's try to tap into your intuition and see, how does your body respond? Sometimes I'll have people imagine two outcomes. It's like, okay, let's imagine you go on the trip to Italy and you leave your kids and you go over there, and how do you feel when you just imagine being and doing all those things, and see how you feel. And then let's imagine now you stay and you don't go and you and then imagine all those things that would happen, and how do you feel? And then there's your intuition telling you right there, because of the way you respond to imagining. Our body does respond to imagination just as if you're doing it. So you can imagine and notice the body's response. And that's a way to tap also into your intuition, instead of asking yes or no from the pendulum,
Yeah. And don't you feel like the imagination is such an important part of inner child that we as a society need to honor again? Because it's, whether it's just like being a child and you're imagining your favorite gift you want for Christmas, to like when I look at a shamanic approach, so much of the shamanic healing is about accessing our imagination and letting those guides show up in whatever way they want to. Yes. And it's so, I see so many in society that kind of look down on it, like, oh, you're just airy fairy and you're out there. But I feel like it's so an important aspect of helping us to feel what we want to create out here in this physical realm, and that ethereal, realm where we're in our imagination. It's really giving us guidance, like you're saying, where we can kind of feel, if I go this direction or if I go that direction, what does it feel like in my imagination? I feel like that's so important, and it's honoring our inner child to let him or her play in imagination.
Yes. And let them be a part of our life now. Sometimes, as you were speaking earlier about working with that inner child, sometimes people don't realize, like, they'll say, like, well, a lot of things happened when I was a kid and I don't want to go there, or even anything, a child, teenager, young adult, whatever. I don't want to go there. I don't want to think about it. And the thing is by going there and being with that part and allowing that part to express that it was hurt or whatever, allowing a healing to occur, and we can use communicating with those parts of ourselves in our imagination and representative in our life, and that's a way to heal. That's a way to heal those parts. Just stuffing it doesn't heal it. That's when you start to get things in your body, is I stuff this or that, or emotions will become chronic. You can have chronic emotions that you're always angry, and it's not that you're angry because somebody cut you off at the street light, that kind of
anger.
Right. If it's a huge, you want to run the person over, there's something else there. It might be a little angry about them cutting you off, but if you want to hunt them down and find out where they live and stuff like that, there's something else there.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and I feel like so much of healing that, because that back to the point of this whole book and your show and this connection, is that really it's important that we honor that voice now, and that we honor whatever's going on. Like you said, people like, I don't want to go back there, or people that tell me I don't even remember my childhood, which is always kind of a red flag to me when they can't remember. I'm like, ooh. And so it shows like how skilled our mind can be at just like locking things away, because we kind of create that. We don't want to deal with it, so we'll tuck it away. but it's tucked away somewhere, and it's still like the baby. We tucked that baby away somewhere. I loved how in your book you described it as being like your child self was frozen, and she just felt frozen inside of you, and she didn't feel